This is an introductory video teaching you how to use the new version of the RPG keys currently being called RPG Keys V6. This is for the full-size 58 key RPG key. After you've unzipped your download, you're going to find that the installation process is a lot faster. For starters, we're just going to go ahead and copy or drag the application into the applications folder so that it lives along with your other applications. For easy use, we do recommend that you drag the application into your dock. Just like all other RPG key products, the application does need to be run or running when you want to use your keyboard. Um, After you've done this, go ahead and start the application for the first time. This is what you should see. This is the new user interface to the RPG keys. Um, the first step is to install a couple of default layouts, one for Lightroom and one for Photoshop. The way you do this, it's just out of the screen in this recording, is you go up to the Layout menu, which is up by the apple, and you're going to select Import. Um, this is going to take you to a screen that looks like this, and you're going to want to go ahead and navigate to the V6 folder you unzipped, go to the default layouts, and you're going to want to do this twice. You're going to want to do it once for Lightroom, and we're going to go ahead here. Takes a moment. And now you're going to want to do it again for Photoshop. And so now I'm going to select on the Photoshop one. Now this default layout for Photoshop, this is a layout that uses our Photoshop plugin. So if you're not using our Photoshop plugin but you want to use the keys in Photoshop, you can ignore this and just start and make your own layout. But I want to go ahead and import that one as well. Again, takes a moment. And so now here's a quick introduction to this new layout. Of course, you've got the keyboard up here. You've got 54 programmable keys. If you'll see in the application drop-down menu, still thinking. All right. If you see in the application drop-down menu, here are all of the programs that we offer with the RPG keys. These are ones that we support kind of internally, but adding your own software to the RPG key list is a piece of cake, and we'll go through that in another video. For the moment, we're just going to go ahead and select on Lightroom 3, and if I click on, for example, key number, I don't know, 40, down at the bottom here, you're going to see exposure up 009, exposure down 008. Now, that's just what I have this key to do, set up to do when I'm working in Lightroom. If we pick another key, for example, I don't know, 41, it shows you down here in the bottom left, it says, okay, it says key 141, and then it shows it's going to grab the hue tat, the saturation tat, or the luminance tat, based on whether or not I'm holding down either of the modifier keys, which again are the black keys in the bottom left and right of your keyboard, shown on your screen here as the slash and double slash keys. You'll notice that the slash and double slash keys are located in the lower left and lower right to accommodate for opposable thumbs, meaning left-handed and right-handed. Here's what's new in the RPG keys. Let's grab a key like key 9. You can now program mouse clicks. Okay. You can now program keystrokes. You can now program modifier keys. You can now program to open and run things. So if you want to launch, your email, you could go ahead and browse and tell it to launch iMail. If you want it to open Photoshop, you go ahead and tell it to open and run Photoshop. So any files or folders that you want opened, you can now assign to any key on the RPG key. And then of course down here in the RPG key functions are all of the RPG functions for Lightroom 3, because so you can do a search for exposure, for example. So here are all of the macros that have the word exposure in them. One thing that's different about this version of the RPG keys is that in previous versions you had an LR preference tool for changing the strength of each exposure increment or decrement. Now we just do it with separate macros. So we've got exposure down 001, which is a very, very small change, all the way up to exposure down 20, which is a very large change. So a photographer, for example, who wanted to change exposure, when they hit the exposure key on key number 40, if it was too much, when we've got it set up for exposure 9, maybe they would press exposure 6. And again, this is just going to make a smaller change. You'll see here that it hasn't, we're not showing the adjustment. I'm going to go ahead and click on key 39 and go back to 40. And we should be good to go once we reboot the software. But go ahead and play with, as one of these testers here, go ahead and play with the mouse clicks, the keystrokes, the modifier, and the open and run. You can speed up your workflow quite a bit by using the modifier and the keystrokes. Lastly, in Lightroom, if you click on key 19, 20, 27, 28 on the default layout, you're going to see a thing here that says LR Pref. This is the new way to set up your Lightroom preferences, and that meaning that is your presets. So no longer do you have to select the key ID. It tells you that you've selected preset 1. You of course need to tell it your preset type, and then here it does, and it goes and finds all of your Lightroom presets. So just a little method again. You want to just click on any key that you've got presets set on, and when they are defined, you'll see it right here. Okay, this should be enough to get you started. Thanks for taking part in the beta program.